Hi, I'm Alex Winston. I'm joined today by Mike Ernst and Ted McClain of Expedite All to talk about all things expedited. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your past and how you ended up at Expedite All. You used to be at a LTL giant that's now defunct, Yellow. So, tell us about your experience and what led you to where you are today.
Sure, Alex, thanks. So, really, it was a professor in college, to be honest. So, went back to school to finish up college, ended up taking a class with a class on business leadership. Started talking about what I was going to do as a future career. We started talking about transportation. Really interests me because I used to play college sports, some minor league baseball. That whole dynamic of the team game, the results, everybody rowing the boat in the same direction and pushing for the final, end zone or goal line. Ended up starting with the roadway side of the legacy company. Really just enjoyed the day-to-day, the camaraderie, the way the teams work together, the intensity of the environment, and, had a great career with roadway, YRC Freight, and Yellow. To your point, unfortunately, at about July 28th of 2023, that was the end of Yellow, but it was a great career. And for me, fortunately, I had a number of different experiences, and each one was an aha moment. If I look back at the approximately 23 years I spent with that organization, worked in multiple management levels at end of lines, break bulks, sales management, line haul out in the field, ended up going over to corporate and learning about all the different functionalities from various portions of the operation, legal, government affairs, things like that, which led into, overseeing the DCs, eventually taking over central dispatch, and then eventually ending my career as a vice president of line haul, overseeing the 4 different brands we had under the Yellow umbrella. But, each one of those was an aha moment for me because it was a new experience, understanding the customer, understanding the smaller operations, that day-to-day P&D, what was important as far as making sure those pickups and deliveries were executed on time. When you think about the larger break bulks or what we used to call the distribution centers, the mass chaos of everything, coming in had to turn during certain cycles in order to, perform properly for our customers from a service perspective. Again, unfortunately, the end came suddenly. There were some, impassable hurdles that we couldn't get through between the company, the union, and that was the ultimate demise. But at the end of the day, really, it again was a preparation for where I am today with Expedite All. When I first started looking around at what was I going to do post-Yellow, talking with, our CEO, talking with yourself about the opportunity at Expedite All, it was really interesting because, again, it was a specialty niche. But with Expedite All being the largest North American provider, a huge opportunity to come in and maintain, that transportation environment that I enjoyed, but something new, something exciting. Now, you look at the tech stack that we've got, you look at the vehicle capacity, you look at the coverage, you look at the safety, the reliability. It was just really something unique that caught my interest, and I couldn't be happier where I am today.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We'll get a little bit more into Yellow and how that experience might have shaped how you're working now. But wanted to go ahead and introduce Ted McClain as well. Ted is the VP of Strategic Partnerships at Expedite All. And Ted, tell us a little bit about your past, because it's actually somewhat similar to Mike's, but really in a different role. Ted, how did you get into this?
Yeah, it is very similar. I came from the Yellow side of Yellow, whereas Mike came from the roadway side. At one point, we were mortal enemies, but we all came together there. But I started at Yellow. I spent 35 years there. I started as a management trainee and was a supervisor, and then spent about 10 years in industrial engineering, working on processes, efficiencies, process improvements, things like that. Then became a city operations manager in the largest P&D operation in the country, and a terminal manager, and then went into corporate sales. From that, I went into corporate sales in the 3PL channel at Yellow, working with brokers, 3PLs, the larger ones that we worked with. And that's what I did for the last 10 or 12 years of my career, which I really liked, and ended up being a director of business development in that channel. I was there until we closed, and then I was looking for something that I thought I would enjoy selling. I talked to a lot of companies, a lot of brokerages, and one of my go-to questions was, what is your value proposition? If I'm walking in the door of a shipper or whatever, what am I selling? And many of them have very good programs. They have a lot of analytics and programs that they can help people. But when I talk to Expedite All, the product that you've got or that we have is just incredible. The size of the network, the speed of the network, the on-time percentage. It was just something that I was not used to, and I was used to selling despite that. And now I can sell with a lot of confidence in the product, in the people, and the process. So that's how I got here, and thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. I'm across the table from Mike Ernst and Ted McClain, and so I've got about 60 years of LTL experience across the table from me right now, which is probably some of the most stressful type of experience that you can have in freight, right? And so you see the worst problems a lot of times that can happen in the freight world. Really, in my mind, the problem that Expedite All solves most often is a problem that LTL has a lot of problems trying to overcome, and it might be somewhat related to just how people in freight think. Right, they're maybe not aware of the differences between LTL and Expedite, and when one is appropriate and when one is not appropriate. Right, and so tell me a little bit. We'll start with you, Ted. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges people face in LTL, maybe some examples from your past life, challenges people face in LTL that Expedite All can solve.
Okay, yeah, there are quite a few. LTL does have its place in the market, obviously, because there's millions and billions of dollars being spent in LTL every day, and if you need something done economically and an open-ended delivery time, LTL is perfect. But there are many occasions when that's not the case. You need something there on a particular day. You need something delivered, and you're 100% sure it's going to be intact and not damaged or misrouted or completely lost, or you need to know exactly where it is at all times. Those things are probably not a good fit in an LTL environment because they are cross-docked multiple times. And that's where things happen. Nothing goes on a truck and delivers on the same truck. There are times when something may change trailers 3 times or more. And every time they move, there's a chance of damage. There's a chance of getting put on the wrong trailer. There's a chance of just a forklift going through it. And I've seen all of those many, many times. And it always seems to be the critical shipment that happens to, like a trade show shipment, and they're waiting on their trade show booth to show up, and the trade show's started. I've had that call many, many times. But those are the kind of shipments that, you can rest assured if you put it in Expedite All, it's going to be there. It's never transferred or moved, so there's no chance of damage, and it's going to be there on time. So,
yeah, Ted, I think you're uniquely positioned. I think you were the face of Yellow for your customers, pretty much, right? And
Yes.
so when something went wrong, who are they going to talk to? Ted McClain, right?
Yes.
And so did you guys have anything, or what could you have done if you'd had access to Expedite All when you were at Yellow?
Well, there were a lot of rescues done of LTL freight. And honestly, I don't know how we did them or who did them for us. I wish I had been around at Expedite All then to do the rescues for Yellow, but we did do a lot of those when something just was critical and had to get there and it couldn't wait to get through the LTL world. We would rescue them from a terminal and shoot it straight into the shipper. But yeah, I was the ear that they called. So yeah.
Yeah, and Mike, you had a different perspective for a lot of your career at Yellow. You were actually working on the operational side to make sure that the problem that Ted gets called about gets solved in some way, right? And so you had teams working under you to make sure those problems got solved. Talk about some of the challenges you faced. Do you have any specific examples of things that went wrong at LTL terminals that with freight that maybe was more well suited for Expedite?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about an LTL environment, Ted alluded to it, there's a lot of human error that can happen. Not purposely, but people are trying to work hard. Things happen quickly. When you're trying to meet the service standards of your customers, simple things can go wrong, like loading it on the wrong trailer, mishandling it, the packaging may be poor, all of those type of things. So a lot of things can go wrong. To Ted's point, there's things they do well. But when you're talking about those critical shipments, and you can think of a number of examples over the years, it's not necessarily the perfect fit. When you need it there on time, when you need it there intact, that's really where Expedite All comes in. When you're comparing, what we have coined as small truckload or STL compared to an LTL or less than truckload type of service, you're getting that exclusive use vehicle. So it's a no-touch solution. It's door-to-door. It's fast. It's safe. It's secure. I think about examples, probably one that comes to mind. And I remember this one vividly. It was back in 2013. I was asked to take over our Kansas City DC and manage that distribution center, which at the time was the sixth largest facility we had in the network, so very large. A lot of freight, a lot of tonnage going through there. But within my first week, I get a call from our CEO at the time. His personal account, which was an airline, had a critical shipment that had come through the facility and somehow came up missing. So you can imagine, first week on the job, large responsibility, and you've got the CEO reaching out who you didn't talk to that often, even at the DC manager level, but he gives you a call and says, hey, we have to find this. We scoured the dock. We went back and looked at video to try to figure out where it had gotten misplaced. Lo and behold, Kansas City was also a consolidation center for what we called OS&D, overage, shortage, and damaged freight. It would go over to another company. They would resell it to try to get some kind of revenue back after we had already paid a claim. We ended up finding that over at the OS&D facility a week later. But it took a week to uncover where it was, look through every possible trailer that went in and out of that facility. And you're talking a facility that probably dispatched a couple hundred schedules or more a day. So when you're talking about an LTL network, you're combining 28-foot pup trailers versus 153-footer. So 400 trailers plus you're trying to track down. You're trying to get with the salvage facility to go through the number of trailers that they have, and they're still unloading. But it was an absolute critical shipment that the airlines needed to get a plane back up and running. And here we had lost it, mishandled it, misplaced it. Again, nobody did it on purpose, but it went on the wrong trailer, ends up over to salvage facility, and takes a week to find it. Those are the type of examples, again, when you go back to something time sensitive, something critical, something that through all those handlings Ted alluded to could inadvertently get damaged. That's where a product like that, Expedite All and the STL solutions that we provide come in and solve all that. You don't have to worry about the mishandlings. You don't have to worry about handlings at all, right? The only handling is putting it on the vehicle and taking it off the vehicle at destination. So There's a number of examples we could probably go through like that, but that was the one that jumps out because, again, it was week one, new responsibility, large responsibility, and you've got a CEO of a major company like Yellow calling you going, hey, we need to find this. It's critical. My customer's not happy. And even through all the hard work that security did, our team at the facility did, we still ended up taking about a week to find it at a salvage facility, which was a tough one to swallow. But those are the type of things that can go wrong.
Yeah, and Mike, I can imagine the pressure of a CEO reaching out to you, especially publicly traded large company, right? CEO taking his time away from his normal duties to make sure a shipment is right? Yeah. And so a lot of pressure on you and your team, and again, probably the type of load that would be perfect for Expedite All's network, right?
Absolutely.
And let's talk a little bit about that network, guys. Mike and Ted, both of you were with Yellow till the very end. I spoke with both of you shortly after the very end of Yellow, and both of you made the decision to come on board Expedite All and help build it to what it is today. And Expedite All is very lucky to have you, obviously. But what was it about the network and the offering at Expedite All that convinced you, Mike, I'll start with you, that convinced you that's your next step in your career to go try to build this thing?
Sure. I can think of a couple of things, and we spoke earlier briefly about it. The uniqueness of the niche, right? We've talked a little bit about the LTL rescues. But Expedite All is not just there for the expedite, not just there for the rescue. It's also the right sizing of the vehicle, right? So you think about where we're at in between. It's a space in between full truckload and LTL. So if you need it there more reliably, faster, take out the concerns for damage and handlings, we become a better solution than LTL. When you talk about right-sizing the equipment to find a more economical solution than buying a full 53-foot full truckload on something that's 1 to 14 pallets, we can give you a better service and save you money. So that was extremely unique. In addition, just the size of the network. When you think about Expedite All and our coverage, we cover all of North America. We do the cross-border to Canada, cross-border to Mexico, intra-Mexico, obviously the lower 48 states, and we've got approximately 10,000 vehicles. The size and scope of what we're capable of was extremely interesting, over and above just the fact of with a dedicated door-to-door solution, coming from a world I did where there's a lot of opportunity for problems and things to go wrong. That was a very interesting, unique product to say, that's going to be gone. So again, we could take a value proposition to customers and help solve problems, help improve their supply chain for their customers with a no-touch door-to-door service. Now, the other part, just personally for me, Expedite All is also very much a faith-based organization, which I think for me was another aha moment to say, this is someplace I'd like to be. We've got a number of hardworking people. They do everything they can to take care of our company, our customer, continue to help us succeed. But over and above just, in my opinion, a superior product that we take to market, it's that faith-based organization that really was the final, decision maker that said, okay, this is where I'd like to go, and couldn't be happier that I'm here.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Ted McClain, you were at Yellow for, you said 35 years, right? Mm-hmm. And spent almost all of that time just building relationships in the freight industry as a sales representative there. So when you had the choice a couple of years ago after Yellow went down to offer your services somewhere else, I'm sure you had options, right? Because those types of relationships are things that are valuable. What made you decide that Expedite All was the right place for you at that time?
Well, there was a couple of things. One is that our primary focus is working with other brokerages, 3PLs, and that's what I was doing at the time. I was doing that, and I had a lot of really, really good relationships, which I still have. But at the time, I was working and bringing on freight despite service limitations. And that was a lot of my conversations with these relationships is, just working through that. And I thought, if I can turn that around a little bit and still maintain those relationships, but with a superior service product and one that, all my focus is on sales and building the relationship versus problem solving, there's a lot of success to be had there, and a lot of fun to be had. Instead of trying to rescue an account, it's just keep building accounts, and it was just the perfect fit for me, and I think it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah. Thank you, Ted. Mike, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about leadership, because we brought you in to a leadership position right away. You had been in leadership positions in your past life as well for a number of years. And tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, just sort of your take on leading teams and what sort of things you do and focus on and how you think you developed those skills over the years.
Sure. So again, I think for me, a lot of my background playing athletics in high school, college, the minor leagues, really teaches you about teamwork in general, right? Because everything you do is based on the team being successful in those situations versus the individual. So I think that's really a foundational key to leadership, is understanding that the team is the most important thing. Now, past that, I'm sure everybody, I'm sure you have as well, I've read a lot of books on leadership, building teams, et cetera. But I think for me, the keys are, one, your team has to understand the why. What are you doing and why are you doing it? Because if they understand the direction, they can get on board and make their own personal decision whether they want to be a part of that, right? So, they have to understand the why. They have to understand where you're going and, what you're going to do as a team in order to achieve those goals and accomplish your targets. The secondary piece of that is really understanding the individual, right? You've got to understand what's important to them, what they're looking for from a future career standpoint, opportunities, promotions, the opportunity to make a good living and increase their personal income. So I think step one is understanding, that the team is the most important thing. And the end game is to get to those goals collaboratively and as a team and support one another. The secondary piece is making sure that, that team understands where you are going and how to get there, some of the fundamentals that, are the secret sauce to being successful. Working with the individuals to help frame those things up personally as well, and understanding what's important to the individual, what makes them tick, why they make decisions, what motivates them. Those are all important factors. It's not easy. It takes time, especially the personal side, because in many cases people may not be as open to somebody new coming in. You don't just want, for the lack of better words, a mindless robot going forward. You need to kind of spend some time talking with them, understand their personal desires, their likes, what they like to do to have fun, and then switch gears back to the business side and find out where they want to go and how they're going to be a part of that success, and just putting the right people in the right seats to be successful. And they also have to know that you're there to support them. As a leader, I think one of the most important things is to try to remove obstacles, right? Give them the tools to do the job, give them the direction on where the company's going or the organization is going, and then try to make sure you remove every obstacle possible to help them be successful, and then let them know you're there to support them.
Yeah, for sure. Really.